So today we're going to talk about percent of a number in a real-world scenario. So the first thing that I want to remind you of is our percent proportion. That's going to be really important as we go through and solve these problems. So remember our percent proportion, it's is over of is always percent out of 100. Percent is always a number out of 100. Your is, that's the part, and the of, that's the whole. Those are going to be the really important things to remember as we do these percent of a number problems in the real world. So some of the things that you're going to see from the real world as far as percent of a number, you're going to see probably taxes, you're going to see tip, and you're going to see discount. So the great thing about real world scenarios is that you take what you know about finding percent of a number and you really apply it to what you know about what's happening. So tax, when you pay taxes on something, especially sales tax, I'll put sales right here. Sales tax is an amount that you're going to pay on top of the cost of the item. So if I buy an item, I'm going to pay tax on top of that. So I'm going to add it to my total. A tip, when you go to a restaurant, you pay your bill and you pay the waitress a tip, which is going to be something that you add to your total. And a discount, like when you go to the store and you want to buy some shoes and they're maybe 20% off, that's going to be something you subtract from your total. So those are things to keep in mind whenever we are talking about percent of a number in a real world scenario. So let's say we go to dinner, and let's say that dinner, when we add everything up, our subtotal, which just means our total, before taxes, before tip, anything else, is $37.50. So maybe we got a meal and some, sweet tea and a few things like that. So the very first thing that they're going to do is they're going to actually calculate the sales tax for us. So when we decide $37.50, we want to know how much tax we're going to pay on this dinner. So we're going to set up a proportion box. So our proportion box, again, is going to look exactly like percent of a number. And we'll say that sales tax at this particular spot is 8%. Okay? So if it's 8%, that's going to be 8% out of 100. And if our subtotal was $37.50, that's our whole. That's the thing that's going to go in the bottom. And we're looking for the part. That means we're looking for this variable. This x, this is going to tell us the amount of taxes that we're going to pay. So that's our variable there. So to solve this proportion box, again, you solve it just like any other proportion. You're going to cross multiply 100 times x, and that's 100x. And then 37.50 times 8, and we'll use our calculator really quickly to do that. 37.50 times 8, and that's 300. Okay? So at this point, you'll notice you really just have a one-step equation, which is really nice. So the inverse of multiply by 100 is to divide by 100. So we're going to do that on both sides. Divide by 100 here, and divide by 100 here. And this one's really probably pretty easy to do in your head. You can say 300 divided by 100 is 3. And also, we have a little trick when we divide by 100. If I have 300 and I'm dividing by 100, all I have to do is move my decimal 2 spaces to the left, and so it would be 3.00. Same thing as 3. We're looking at this in terms of money, so that's kind of why I wanted to write it like this in terms of money. So what we need to decide is what we're going to do with this information. So we have that our amount of tax is going to be $3, and we said earlier that tax, sales tax, is something that you add onto your total. So if our original total, our total here was $37.50, if I have a $3 total of the sales tax, then I'm going to take the $3, that's going to be sales tax, and I'm going to add it to my total here, and my actual total of my bill after taxes is going to be $40.50. So $40.50. Again, all you're doing is really deciding what you're doing with the total. So are you taking this $3 and adding it? Well, if it's taxes, absolutely, you're going to take that $3 and add it. So a different scenario, let's say we have our $40.50. I'm going to keep this right here, okay? And the rest of it I'm going to go ahead and get rid of. So let's say that we have a coupon. So after we've already found our sales tax, and we've added it in there, let's say we have a coupon for a 20% discount. So we're going to have our meal, but we're going to have a 20% discount, and we actually get to save some money. So the same thing is going to be happening. I'm going to set up my proportion box, and 20%, that's my discount, and percent is always a number out of 100. Again, we're just going back to this proportion box that we did from the very beginning. This is something we've been doing for a little while now. So 20% out of 100, and this time, my total, this spot right here, is $40.50. $40.50. So this right here, this is going to be my variable. This is the amount of discount. That's the thing that we don't know. So 100 times x is 100x, and 20 times 40.5, that's going to be 810. Same thing that we did before. It's a one-step equation. Divide by 100 and divide by 100. We'll use our trick, and we'll scoot our decimal. So x equals 810. And now in this case, if x is $8.10, because it is a discount, we're going to take the $40.50 and we're going to subtract the $8.10 from our bill. So our actual total here would be $32.40.